do. We are on Daf Nunches Amid Aleph toward the bottom. 7 lines from the bottom. Rabbi Yochanan ben Arzav, Rabbi Yossi ben Huroi, Haviyas v'Kashasu Chamr. They were sitting and drinking wine. Azu Gavro, a man came. Amrulei Toashkinun. They said, "Give us a cup of wine." Asked them to help out by giving some wine. Labas the Ramalakaso. After this unknown person picked up the cup, Igloi Milsa David Kechavimu. They found out that they had stepped in it. They had asked a guy to help them. Maybe the reason why they weren't so careful was because they already had a few cups of wine. Chad aser afilu bahana. One said that the wine that was lifted up and poured for them by this Avid Kechavim is aser bahana. V'chad shari afilu b'shtiya. And one said it's mutter even for drinking. So opposite extremes, right? It could be aser bahana, it could be aser just b'shtiya, it could be mutter bahana, it could be mutter b'shtiya. One said it's aser and everything, one said it's mutter and everything. Amr of Yehuda ben Levi, man da aser shaper, also man da shari shaper, or man da shari shaper shari. There's a good, doesn't mean that they're both right, but they both have a good svara for why they said like they said. They obviously one is right and one is wrong, but we can understand where they're coming from. Man da aser, the one who says aser, meimer amar. We look into what was the thought process of the guy who poured it. He says, Sal Gadaita Rabbana Gihani Shichar Kashasu Alavadai Hai Chamru Vinasche. The guy says to himself, these are chashav rabbanim. They wouldn't be sitting around drinking beer. It's for sure wine. So therefore, he took the opportunity when he was holding it. He sticks his finger in. The way they would be menasach wine, the process of making an offering from wine was by moving it around. He would mix it with his finger. So he knew it was wine. So he took the opportunity to stick his finger and make it yayin nesach. Man the shari, but the mandam who said it's mutter shari shaper shari, he's correct. The guy didn't realize that they didn't know that he was a guy. So he said, they know I'm a guy and they're asking me to pour it. It must be beer. It can't possibly be wine. They would never do such a thing. His advice says not only was he a guy, he was also a big lamdan. He said, I know that no rabbanim would ever ask a guy to pour wine from them. Elavade shechru, so it must be beer. And therefore he never bothered to move around the wine and make it into yayin nesach. And therefore he didn't bother moving it around with his finger. Gemara, how could it be mutter? Because we say that the guy who moved the wine, who poured the wine, wasn't aware it was wine. He thought it was beer, and therefore didn't bother sticking his finger in it. But he looks, wine and beer look differently. So it was at night, it was dark, so he couldn't see. But you could smell it. Bechadta was new wine that doesn't have a smell of wine yet, so there's no distinctive wine odor. But he touches it when he meaning Rashi says, although even though we didn't see him touch the wine, but he still, the way he poured the wine was he used a utensil to stick into the barrel or the bottle of wine and pour out the wine. So, like we said before with the lulav, when someone touches the wine with a lulav, the chum geyser and that it's aser b'shtiya, should at least be aser b'shtiya because this person used his kayach, he used a utensil to stick into the bottle or the barrel and take out wine. So he's moving around the wine. It's being touched by the Ovid Kechavim through the utensil. Shaloi bekavana, even though it's not bekavana, his intention is not. He's trying to just give wine because in this case he thinks it's shikra, so he doesn't have a kavana to. He thinks it's beer, so he doesn't have a kavana to mix it for avodah zara. But also, as we've said, just moving, even you through an intermediary utensil or a lulav or anything, when a guy moves wine, that's also b'shtia. So how can we say it's mutter even b'shtia? So the kamoirik aruke. We're talking about not where he used a ladle to take out the wine from the barrel, but rather he poured it out directly. It was in a bottle, and he poured it out from the bottle. Therefore, it's not that like excuse me, it's not where he touched the wine through an intermediary by sticking something into it. But taking the whole bottle is just koiche. But there's no gzeira on when he just pours it without touching the wine directly. What's the din of wine that was diluted, where they used to take very strong wine and dilute it with water? Wine that was diluted by an ovid kechavim, what's the din? Amalei. First he said, I don't like your terminology. This is very typical of certain rebbeim. First you have to clarify. Why are you using the lashon of masku? Ema mazgu, the lashon we always use throughout Shas for diluting wine is to mazgu. Amalei anakadech sivka amina. I wanted to be fancy. I wanted to use the lashon of the pasuk. The pasuk says, Tavcha, Tavcha, Mascha, Yena. She shechs the animal and she pours the wine. She is meizig the wine. She dilutes the wine. Hamlei said back to him, Lashon Torah la'atzma, Lashon Cham la'atzma. He said, don't be so fancy. Just use the regular Lashon of the Gemara of Mazgu. Don't use the Lashon of Mascha. It's not the place for poetic license. Just use the workmanlike term that we always use to describe diluting wine. Mai, what's the din? Amalei aser. And now they finally got back to the actual question. Ranun Ches Amid Beis in the middle of the Amid. Amalei aser, he said it's Lamaisa, it's aser. This wine that was diluted by an Ovid Kechavim is aser. Why is it aser? Mishum lech lech amrin nazir schar schar lekamra loisi karev. This person, when he diluted the wine, it really, his intention was not. It was just kaichai, like we said. It's just going through. He's just pouring it. He's not directly touching the wine. He's pouring water into it. That water is not the ladle or like a lulav. That's a solid object. It's just a stream of water. So that would not be considered that would not be considered that he's touching it. So therefore, it's only a gzera because of this din of lech lech amrin nazir schar schar lekamra. We tell a nazir, go far away from the vineyard, so you shouldn't come close to wine, which is also to nazir. So we say the same thing over here. We put an extra gzera. It's not the gzera me'ikar adin, but it's an extra gzera on them to stay away from any possibility of yayin nesach. Rav Yirmiyah ikla l'savta. Rav Yirmiyah came to this place called Savta. Chaza chamra demazgi avid kechavim ishti Yisrael mine. He saw wine that was being poured by avid kechavim, and the Yidden would drink from it. V'asaluhu. And he said it's awesome. Mishum lech lech amrin nazir schar schar lekamra loisi karev. He said this because of this pasuk, because of the extra chumrah that we put on yayin nesach. Stay far away, and therefore don't drink this yayin mazuk, even though technically, it should be mut. Yain, he said it's not as a ma'isa that happened, but that he said as a halacha. Yain shemaz go abit kechav mas mishum lech lech amin nazir schar schar the kamra loisi karev. So we have three examples of the Gemara just saying the same din in different forms. Rish Lakish ikla leBatzra. Rish Lakish arrived at a place called Batzra. Rashi says Batzra. I'm sorry. Chaza Yisrael de ka'achli peri deloy ma'ashri, and he saw Yidden there were eating peris that had not had trumas and taken off from it. Va'asalahu, and he said, "This is also you can't eat such these peris that didn't have trumas and taken off from it." So Rashi Chaza de achli peri deloy mashturi va'asalahu deloy ma'ashri va'asalahu. So Rashi de kasava batzra he batzar ba'midbar beretz hamesha. He came to this batzra. And Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish said it's aser because he thought Batzar was Batzer, which is part of Eretz Yisrael. It's called Batzer b'midbar Eretz Hamesha. The pasuk calls Batzer b'midbar Eretz Hamesha that it's the land of the valleys, that it's part of Eretz Yisrael. V'kim Eretz Yisrael chayv and perisah b'maiser. Therefore, it's aser b'maiser. He also saw Chaza. Continues the Gemara. Chaza Maya de Sagdi Lahu. He saw that they were bowing down, worshiping water. The Sagdi Lahu Avdei Kechavim. The Avdei Kechavim were bowing down to it. V'Shasu Yisrael. The Yidden were drinking that water that the guy had bowed down to. V'Asal, and he said it's Asal. Asal the Kamei Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish came to Rabbi Yochanan. Amalei. He said to him, Ademakturcha Allah. While your coat is still on you, Zil Hadar. Go back and be chayzer on what you said. These two dinim you said. First of all, Batzar lav hainu Batzra. You were mistaken about the location. Batzar is not when you were in Batzra. That's not the same thing as Batzar. Batzar is in Eretz Yisrael. Batzra is outside of Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, there's no chiv trumas and maisus. So you asked them from eating the food that didn't have trumas and maisus. You were incorrect. And as far as the second din that the mayim that the Avdei Kechavim bowed down to. You asked it for the Yidden. He said, that's public water. They don't have the ability to aser by bowing down to public water. Like we said before, you can only aser public water. Public water is something that's connected to the ground. It's like the harim. And it doesn't become aser through worshiping. And in addition, it also is not. It's also not aser because it doesn't belong to them. A guy cannot aser something that belongs to a yid unless he doesn't maisa with it. Just bowing down is not enough to aser to it. So Rabbi Yochanan Tamei. This that Rabbi Yochanan said that it's aser. That I'm saying that it's the mayim shall rabim is mutter, even though it was bowed down to by goyim. He's going l'shitas. Rabbi Yochanan mayim shall rabim ein nesarim. Water that belongs to the public doesn't become aser through being nevat, through being worshipped by non-Jews. But hadi yachan nesarim. But the mashmaya says the Gemara asks, but it's mashma that if it belonged to an individual, if someone owned the town and it included a water, a lake, and a guy, let's say, belonged to a guy, and he bowed down to his own thing, it would be aser. The typically it should be mutter because of the tam of a mountain, like we said, a mountain, something that's mechubal karka, being mishtachava to it doesn't make it aser unless you do a ma'isa with it. Zakmar leitzricha tel shinu gala. We're talking about where the water, a wave came or a tide came, and it pushed away a part of the water, so it was separated from the rest of the water. It was no longer mechuba. This. So now, what does it amount to? It amounts to the same din. It's the same situation like we had earlier. The shaila, when we said that a har cannot become aser by being mishtachava to it, but we had a question: what happens if some of the stones of the har of the mountain separated on their own? They fell off on their own. We said, is it what asers the mountain? Is what matter the mountain is the fact that it's mechubal karka, or is it because it doesn't have tfisas yad of a yid? We said hey, we need to have that it's or of a human being, that it's because it wasn't created through the actions of a person. So if you hold that it's because it has to be attached to the ground, so once it's separated, even if it's separated by itself, it's going to be capable of becoming also through worship. But if you say needs tfisas yidei adam, so this didn't have any tfisas yidei adam. It happened the stone stepped by itself. So it was a machlokes Rabbi Yochanan earlier, Rabbi Yochanan and another Manda Amar, and we said we don't know which one says what. So to stand Rabbi Yochanan Amar Asuris, let's say, since he's saying over here that if it would have belonged to an individual, this water that separated its own, it would have been Asur. But says he holds that it's Asur, that the reason is it's mutter is only because it's attached to the ground. But once it's separated, it's no longer mutter. Loit shricha the tafchinu biyadei. And this is we had this in the Gemara before. We're talking about where he used his hand and took out the water, pushed the water out. So therefore, it has a tfis yedei adam. So in Mamashach, it's going to be aser, whatever the reason is, whether it's because it has to be attached to the ground or whether it's because you need tfis yedei adam. You had both of those things. The water separated through the action of the guy or even of a yid. Zok the Gemara. Rav Chia bar Abba ikla legavla. Rav Chia bar Abba came to a place called Gavla. Chazah b'nois Yisrael demi avra me'avdei kechavim shemalu v'loy tavlu. We found, unfortunately, b'nois Yisrael, a Jewish woman, that became pregnant from being married to avdei kechavim that had gotten mila and not tefillah, which is actually a machlokes whether you need Mila or just Tefillah if you need both. We paskin you need both, but there's a Mandam who said you just need one. So they were married to these men who had just had Mila, that had Mila but not Tefillah. He also saw Chazah Chamra the Mazgu Oivdei Kechavim v'Shasu Yisrael. He also saw wine that was poured, that was diluted by Oivdei Kechavim, and Yidden were drinking it. Chaza, a third thing he saw, Chaza Turmasa, which is a kind of bean dip, the Shalki Lu Avdei Kechavim, that was cooked by Avdei Kechavim, V'achli Yisrael, and Yidden were eating it. He didn't say anything to object to any of these things. Also, L'kamed Rabbi Yochanan, he came to Rabbi Yochanan, Amalei Tzei V'hachraz al B'neim Shehein Mamzerim. Go and declare, first of all, about the Jewish woman that married a guy that was mal v'loy taval, that the children are mamzerim. Val yenam mishum yayin esach. And as far as the wine that they were drinking, the diluted wine, to say you have to go tell them that it's yayin esach and that it's also for them to drink it. Val turmas and that the turmas that was cooked by the Avdei Kechavim, mishum bishul Avdei Kechavim, it's also bishul mishum she'ena b'nei Torah. He said about the last one, Mishum B'shul Avdei Kechavim, that b'atzem it really should be mutter. But since the people in this town, in Gavla, were not b'nei Torah, we had to make an extra stringency that they shouldn't even eat we're going to see a reason why turmas should really be mutter, but because they're not b'nei Torah, it was important to make extra safeguards. They shouldn't come anywhere near eating Bishul Akum. So the Gemara goes through them one by one. Al b'neim shehem mamzer. The women who were married to an Oivdei Kechavim that were Mavloi Taval, the reason why the children are Mamzer, first of all, he holds that you have to have both a Mila and a Tefillah in order to be a Ger, and they only had Mila, didn't have Tefillah, so they remain Oivdei Kechavim. The Kivin de Taval Oivdei Kechavim, since there was no Tefillah, they remain Oivdei Kechavim. For Amar Rabba Barachana Rabbi Yechon, Oivdei Kechavim Eved Abba Abbas Yisrael Havalad Mamzer. This is a Shita which is not like what we paskin like, that anyone where Kedushin is not typhus, any bia, that Kedushin is not typhus, it causes the vlad to be a mamzer. We hold that it has to be an isser. It's not just that there is Kedushin is not typhus, but it has to be a chiv karis in order for the vlad to be a mamzer. But they held not like that. They held just the fact that Kedushin not typhus with Oivdei Kechavim, that's enough to make it a mamzer. The second that he said, they take out the word gazer. Al yenam, we said the yenam is treated as yain nesach, mishum yain nesach, mishum lech lech amrin nazir is char lekam loisi karav. like we said before, when you dilute the wine, even though me'ikar adin it should be mutter because it's only koichai and it's not directly touching it, but we were geyser because of this. Just like we say by the Nazar, you should stay away from the vineyard. We tell Yidden because of the chumrah of Ovid Kechavim of being Ovid Avodah Zara to stay away from Yain Esach. The final thing we said that he should tell them not to eat this bean dip that was cooked by Avdei Kechavim. We said it's not because they're not Bnei Torah. Time they Bnei Torah, Bnei Torah Shari. We said it's only an extra chumrah because they were lax in general in halachas, so therefore we had to be extra careful. But it's mashma that tumosin would be mutter even if it was cooked by a guy. Why isn't it bishalakum? Anything that's eaten raw, this doesn't have a din bishul evdikechavim, and this turmus is not something that's eaten raw, so it should be bishul evdikechavim. Why are we saying that it would be mutter if not for the fact that they were not bnei Torah? We said there was a second reason why something, there's two ways to get out of the din of bishul. One is if it's something that's nechal chai, if it's something eaten raw, even if it was cooked by a guy, it doesn't get a din bishul. The second thing, it has to have a certain level of chashivas. The reason why we ask a bishul is because of chasnus. We don't want to be hanging around together with goyim, but you're only going to hang around with them for something chashiv. If it's like some street food that people just pop in their mouths, that's not going to. That there's no chash of chasnus of hanging around with them. So this turmus is not a chashiv of food, and therefore be'ikar adin would be mutter. But because they were not bnei Torah, we should be geyser on them as well. Time they may have Torah, bnei Torah shari. So it's only mutter because it's only also because they're bnei Torah, but without that it would have been mutter. What's the din that Ovid Kichavim should bring grapes to the wine press? There's no explanation of this. The Rishonim talk about it a lot. Taisus brings the pshat of the Rashbam all the way in the bottom of the Yam. Taisus Maush Yelach Anovim Lagas Rashbam Pirish Vizel Shani Kshaboitzer Manovim Noisanam Sambasalim Lailicham Lagas. When they take the grapes and put them into baskets to bring them to the wine press, so Taisus Mismachen V'nechvashen Hanovim, the grapes get a bit crushed and they ooze out liquid, zelzeh, vayayim ezalef, and the wine oozes out, and then they take it and they put it into the press. Do we allow the Avikacham to bring it to the gas? Are we worried about him touching that yai and nesech b'maga? Now, obviously, this is a chiddush, and the other Rishonim disagree with this because we said that we had a whole machlekes, a two-way machlekes, or a three-way machlekes about after the wine gets to the gas, after the grapes get to the gas, does it become capable of becoming yayin nesach when it first starts getting crushed and the wine goes away? Do we say it has to go down through the tube into the lower vet? But we're talking over here is l'chayra about like the l'chayra something similar to what we said before that lech amrin nazir schar lekamra, like we're going to see in the Gemara. The Gemara is going to say it's additional chumrah that maybe the chamam placed on it, but not me'ikra adin. So Amalahu, he said back to him, also mishum lech amrin nazir schar lekamra loisikarev. He said it's also because of this reason that we make extra restriction on yayin nesech to keep you away from it. Even though me'ikra adin, it should be mutter. Eser of Yemer of Kahana. Ovid kechavim shehevi andavim legas besalin ubedardurin. Ovid kechavim that brought their grapes to the press in their baskets or in their other types of containers. Afal pisha yayin mezalef alein. Even though the wine, even though, like we said, there's liquid that came out of the um, grapes and it's sitting on top of these grapes, mutter. It's mutter. He doesn't say lech lech aminuzina, that you should keep away from it. Why did we say before that it's also? Amalei heavy karmet. You're asking a question over there where it said that the goyim already brought it. Anal lechatchila kamina. I was saying that lechatchila you should stay away from it, but I never meant to say that it should be aser b'diavad if you did so, because of leich lech amin and um lekarim al tikarev. That's only a din lechatchila to say to avoid it, but there's no consequences if you're over on it. It doesn't become aser. There was an esrog that fell into a barrel of wine. Idri Ovid Kechavim, a Ovid Kechavim jumped up the shakle. He stuck his hand in and grabbed out the esrog. He didn't want it to fall to the bottom and be lost. Amalu Ravashi, Natuli Yadi, hold the hand of this Ovid Kechavim. We know he stuck his hand in. There was no possibility of him being moishech. He wasn't moving around the wine with intention of worshiping, because clearly you could see that he was doing it to grab the esrog. But the problem is when he's going to remove his hand at that point, now he's not busy with the esrog. He already got the esrog. Now he'll have in mind to be over to do a nisach with the wine. So therefore, what could you do? Knock the liyah, to grab his hand, in order that he can't move it, or bertsua the shaifa, and tilt the barrel and pour out the wine with the until the wine pours out, and he's not able to move it. So if you do this, if you pour it out until there's no wine that his hand is touching, it's going to still remain that it's going to be aser, obviously, because he touched it. We know that any wine that's touched by Ovid Yechavim is aser b'shtia, but it will still remain mutter b'hana, because it will have precluded any chance of him worshipping the wine, because he first put it in to get the esrog, and then afterwards you immobilized his hand, so he wasn't able to move it and have in mind for nisach. Ravashi, hay Ovid Yechavim the naschel lecharma di Yisrael b'kavana. A guy who went ahead and he moved around the wine of a yid, having in mind that it should be la'avodas kechavim. Even though it's aser, this is a real yayin nesach, and it's aser bahana, and you can't sell the wine to another guy. But you can force the Ovid Kechavim who did this to pay for it. I mean, assuming you have the ability to do so. My timer, Mikla Kalya, he essentially destroyed the value of the wine. I guess it sounds like a guy is chayiv for a grama, right? It's we always have this question when you when you make something chametz on Pesach, are you chayiv to pay for it? It sounds like we would force the guy to pay, but for making this yayin unusable. Amravashi mino amino. Where do I see that you could make the guy pay for making his wine unusable, for making it yayin nesach? The Tanya. An Ovid Kechavim that was menasach the yayin of a yid, even if it's not in front of his avodah zara, which we're going to see that there's a machlekes about it. Even though it's not in front of the Kechavim, aser, it's going to be aser. Yehuda ben Bava of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira matirin. They say it's mutter. Mishum shnei dvar. They say it's mutter because of two reasons. Echad she'ein asken yayin al b'fnei avodas kechavim. First of all, they hold that there's no such thing as nisach yayin unless it's in front of the avodah zara. So even if no guy would do it if his avodah was not there. That's the shita of Yehuda ben Bava and Yehuda ben Beseira. We haven't been saying like this till now. The echad, and the second reason she'ein malay kol kim heimen achshatasa yayin la'insi. Secondly, how can the guy go ahead and asa the wine of a yid? Now, Lamaisa, we don't paskin like this, but we see that Legabe, at least this much will accept their argument that the guy doesn't have the right to destroy the yid's property and go off scot-free. They doesn't have to pay for it. So since they basically it's hard the Achronim, Rishonim and Achronim all talk about what's the limit from here, but the point is they wouldn't take such an extreme position and say that it's mutter, and then we would go to the other extent and say that the guy can do it and get off scot-free. It must be that the guy will be mechuyev to pay for the damage that he's done by making it to be into yayin nesach. Hahi chavita de chamra, the ishtakel lebarzel. There was a barrel of wine that they used to have like a tube coming out of it that the wine would pour out of, and the that tube was taken away. Also, Avi Kechavim Idri. Avi Kechavim wanted to be a hero. He came and he stuck his finger into the hole. Anach Yada Yeluya. He put his hand to cover over the hole. Amra Papa called it Lahadi Baza Chamra Aser. Anything that is in that hole that the tube would go into, that was now filled with wine, any wine in that hole is aser. V'idach shari, but the rest of the barrel is mutter. It's not looked on all as one single thing that all the wine becomes aser because it was touched. They looked at two separate things: the wine that's in the hole, and then the rest of the barrel. The rest of the barrel is mutter, and that wine is aser. V'ikadami or papa ad habarze chamra aser. V'idach shari. And another pshat, another version of Rav Papa is that he says it's only aser, it's aser, not just what's in the hole, but everything that's on top of it, because all of that is considered to be, it's considered to be supported by whatever is in that hole. So he's holding all that up, so that's all he's considered to be touching it, but everything below that is mutter. Amr of Yemer Ketanoi. He says this din of Rav Papa is a machlokes Tanoi. The Tanya. Ketanoi. Chavish and Nikva, a chavis that got a hold, bein mi pia, bein mi shaleh, bein mi tzideh, whether it's on the top of it, the pia, the opening of the barrel, bein mi shaleh, or on the floor of the barrel, bein mi tzideh, or if it's in the walls of the barrel. V'naga by tful yaim, someone who is tamei tful yaim, touched it, they could be metama or mashkin, tameya, the whole thing becomes tame. So this is not like Rav Papa was saying that when you touch a barrel of wine, it's as if you touch the whole thing. Yehuda says if you touch it from the top or the bottom, tameya, then it's going to be tame. Because then we say if he touched on the top, then the wine is all a support for his finger. And if he touched it on the bottom, on the floor, then he's supporting all the wine. But mitzideh tahira mikan mikan. But if he did it from the side, then whether the wine that's both above and below that hole, that's going to be it's not going to be tamei. It's only going to be tamei the part that he directly touched. So you see that this din of Rav Papa is a machlokes tanoim. It means it's going to be it's slightly the question comes down to whether all the wine is considered to be one thing. The Tanna Kama said the whole thing is all considered one thing of wine, so you touch it, it's aser. Yehuda says it's going to be chaluk, it's going to only be the part that he touched on the side. It's a little bit different because we're talking about legabi tuma, which is not as chamur as as yayin nesach. When yayin nesach, Rav Papa said that it's going to be aser everything that's on top of the tzida, and over here we're saying it's just the part that you touch directly, it's aser, but it's the same concept. Amar Papa, Ovid Kechavim Adna Yisrael Akuva Adana Yisrael Akuva. If Ovid Kechavim is pouring from the pitcher, and then the yid is holding the cup underneath it, Chamra aser, the wine is going to be aser. My timer. When it goes into the cup, it's coming from the kayach of Avik Kechavim. Even though he doesn't touch it, it's not like using a lulav or using, like we said before, where he used a ladle to take out wine. Over here, he's pouring it. It's still mikayach Avik Kechavim kasi. Yisrael adan of Avik Kechavim akuva, but if it's the other way around, Yisrael is pouring and the Avik Kechavim is holding the barrel, the cup underneath. Chamer shari, the wine is mutter because the Avik is just holding; he's not doing anything. V'imitzaded sedudi, but if the guy who's holding the cup moves around the cup, aser. It's going to be aser because then he has added in his own kayach, and therefore it's going to be aser. Amar Papa, Hayavid Kechavim the Dari Zika v'Ka'azu Yisrael lechorea. The Avid Kechavim was holding a closed bottle of wine, and the Yid was going after him. Malaya Shari. If the bottle is full and closed up, then it's mutter. The Avid Kechavim has no ability to mix the wine by swishing it around because it's full, it doesn't move. Delay Mekarkash. Because he doesn't move. Chasera, but if it's only half full, aser. Then it's aser dilma mekarkash. Maybe he's moving it and causing movement and he's menasach. He has a mind for avodah zara. Kuva malaya, but if it's not a closed bottle, it's an open cup. Aser dilma naga, because maybe he touched it. Touching it will aser it b'shtia. Chasera, if it's partially full, it's not totally full. Shari, deloy naga. It's not so easy to touch a not full cup, and when it's a cup that's open, he's being watched by the yid. He's not going to shake it because it'll be very difficult to shake an open cup without spilling it. So the guy's going to be scared to shake it around while it's open. So therefore, we don't have the chash that he's menasach it, but only chash is he's touching it. So it's only if it's full that it's going to be easy for him to touch it, it could touch his hand. But if it's partially full, the yid is watching, he's not going to stick his finger in, and he can't shake it around, so therefore it's mutter. Rav Ashi Amar, Zika, the bottle that's fully closed, ben melei ben chaser shari. Even if it's partially full, it's mutter. My time ain't derech nisach. It's not normal to do a nisach by shaking something. The way they did nisach was by sticking something into it and stirring it. But shaking of a closed bottle, is not a normal way, and therefore we're not chayshish. Ma'atzra Zara. Do you have, what time is it? Oh, okay, we'll stop over here. Okay.
Yes.